7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Conscious Heart Solutions. I'd like to introduce my guests, beautiful Raven Redfeather. I'm going to share a short bio and then open it up for Raven to share more and elaborate more on her experiences and her journey. Raven, in the early 1990s, experienced a wake-up call. She was suffering from advanced Lyme disease. It is the experience which was the catalyst for aligning Raven with her role as a healer, teacher, and a teacher in this lifetime. After 4+ years of taking high-dose antibiotics and the birth of her fourth child, Raven turned to Ayurvedic medicine, learned transcendental, meditation and yoga practices in a quest to heal herself. She was catapulted onto the path of the medicine ways, having also experienced a powerful vision and initiation into her calling as a shaman or a medicine woman. Raven studied Peruvian shamanism, becoming a Mesa carrier, as well as becoming an angelic USUI Reiki master. And I'll ask you to elaborate what that is and when we open up. Continuing to learn and integrate these ancient medicine ways, she explored other healing techniques such as cryo cobra breathing, advanced theta, crystal Reiki, Lahochi Reiki, okay, and later medicine ways. So welcome, Raven. That was a lot. And I know you have so many more credentials, and I'm definitely interested, and I hope the audience is ready to hear, because I know that you're involved in a lot of things and have a lot of gifts. So with that, welcome, and I'd like to open it up for you to share and elaborate a little bit more about who you are, where you've come from, when exactly did it happen for you? Were you born awakened, or did you have, obviously you shared in your bio, an awakening moment, but so I'll go ahead and open the show up and be glad to listen. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. Really appreciate it. So yeah, I think I came in as an awake child, was always, of course, like many of us that have came in awake, we are different from everybody else. We feel different, not quite fitting in. I was always very empathic to what people were feeling and could sense when somebody was sad or hurt. And so what happened as a child, I ended up, because I would look around me and see the dysfunction, I'm like, but you could just do this, or this could happen. So I try to rescue people. But as you learn with life, that rescuing always backfires. It's never good to try to rescue people. Assist people when they've asked you and you have the time and energy, etc., and want to. But to rescue people is not usually a good thing. So at any rate, yeah, I was just very tapped in as a child. Used to have recurring dreams of, and this I haven't been able to figure out yet, but of going down, I think I need to go to Egypt, going down a tunnel, and I would come into a cavern. There'd be a giant pyramid with an eye on the wall with lots of gems, and I would speak to this pyramid, and but I never remembered when I woke up what transpired. But at any rate, I was very interested in ETs as a child, into ghosts, wrote and illustrated a little book about ghosts, grew up next to a cemetery where we played. We'd play hide and go seek in the cemetery. It was a very beautiful, large cemetery. It was the town's cemetery in Northampton, Massachusetts. And so, yeah, just was the youngest child of 3 older sisters. And yeah, I grew up pretty as a child clairvoyant as well. But as I grew up, um, I lost the clairvoyance and was just more claircognitive or clair-knowing,
Mhm.
or empathic feeling, clairsentient. And as a teenager, I did have an ET experience, but I don't really remember much of it. But I know I had drawn a picture and written all sorts of details about what kind of number of fingers they had and the head shape, and that they spoke telepathically. And I remember writing about their mouth, but I don't remember if they had a mouth or didn't, or unfortunately, years later, I threw out the picture thinking, "Oh, this is silly," and I should just, and I wish I didn't. But at any rate, and as an adult, did have some gray ET experiences as well. Um, but at any rate, I had eventually fallen asleep at the wheel. I had a kind of a sheltered life. I didn't fit in, so I was very quiet, and and I had two very loving parents, but they were very um, somewhat depressed and were alcoholics. So there wasn't really a lot of informational support for me, being the youngest with a 5-year gap with a sibling. So siblings that went off to, higher grades or college or off with their boyfriends. And I was home, with parents who, were working, but very, unhappy, functional alcoholics, etc. But loving it also. So basically, eventually, I really just fell asleep as to who I was and to my gifts. And my thoughts were that I was just to go to college and get married and have kids. And so that's what I did. I went to college. I got a degree in fine art. I was always very artistic. I was supposed to go to Massachusetts College of Art, but couldn't get funding and ended up going to UMass Amherst. Got my degree there, also a minor in anthropology. I was always fascinated by archaeology and cultural anthropology. But
Mm.
in my in my very stereotypical programmed mindset, I thought, well, gosh, if I'm an archaeologist and I'm up digging in, some far Middle East, country or wherever on a dig, how am I going to meet a man and get married and have a
Yeah,
family?
yeah, right. I get that. Yeah.
So, I mean,
I've seen some pretty handsome yeah.
well, I have now in hindsight, it's like, geez,
Yeah.
but that was my mentality. So point being that I was very asleep at the wheel on my own. Became a Stepford wife. I ended up meeting my husband. He was the only man I'd ever dated. I met him my freshman year in college. We dated for 7 years. We're married for 22 and got divorced. And basically, my only goal there was to serve my husband and to be the best possible mother I could be, etc. Just,
Yeah.
very much, if you saw the movie Stepford Wife, that's kind of what I was. And so basically, I was giving my lifeblood away to everybody and everything, and not getting much nurturing at all, in return. So I ended up, creating illness. And it was the illness that did wake me up to who I truly am and to my role as a healer. Um, I had Lyme disease for probably 2.5 years and undiagnosed. And then, was over 4 years on high dose antibiotics, nothing working. Very, deathly ill for a period, and then just miserably ill, and still being basically taking care of the, children all by myself, essentially, even though I was married. Um, and then, yeah, and then after, during that illness, I did get pregnant with my son. So I was very concerned about how he was, the health of him. He ended up being
Yeah.
perfectly healthy, but I did, I did, after he was born, seek alternative therapies. So one thing Lyme disease, having that taught me, was that up until then, I had given my power over to everybody else. And I'd given my power over to the doctors. Doctors were gods. And I would just, if whatever they say, that's what it is. And what I realized is, after the 2 years of going to doctors with complaints and them not addressing it, I realized that they are not gods. and it really, shifted my whole belief system around people of authority. And I have to say that as a child, I wasn't initially somebody who gave their power over to authority. I was the kid who didn't want to pay attention at school, would be daydreaming out the window. At recess time, I sometimes would get locked out of the school because I'd stay out and wouldn't go in. I would, went to, Catholic catechism. I'd be the person doing the little armpit noises underneath, kind of a rebel. But eventually that did get sort of, squashed out of me. But at any rate, I did, I searched alternative methods and ended up going to an Ayurvedic doctor who was great, and learned transcendental meditation. And within 3 days of learning the transcendental meditation, the switch went on. I woke up, and all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, where am I? What am I doing here? And who am I? And I realized that, prior to that, my husband at the time would even say to me, like, you have no goals. Like, what are your goals? You have no goals. Because my only goal was to, take care of the kids. And I didn't, goals? What's that? I had no idea. But all of a sudden I had, plenty of goals. I was so interested in many things. I did immediately end up, learning Reiki, and at the same time learning the Peruvian shamanism. And I used that initially. The thought was that it was going to help to heal myself. So I figured at the time I was a stay-at-home mom, so I did not have my own money. And my husband at the time was very frugal with the money. So I knew that if I was going to spend money going to a healer, which, back then would have been considered, airy fairy, and, what's this Reiki stuff, you're just kind of would be throwing money out the door. I decided, well, if I learn Reiki then and get attuned to it and certified, then I can do Reiki on myself, and I don't have to pay somebody else to do that. And I can Reiki my family and my children and whatnot. So, and maybe eventually. I wasn't really thinking about creating this.
So can can you elaborate on the shamanism and how you became a shaman and how that, because I'm really curious, like how does one become a shaman? How do you?
So I do believe I've been a healer in many lifetimes, and probably a medicine man or woman in a past lifetime as well. And so I studied Peruvian shamanism of the Cuero. So the Cuero are the mountain shaman of Peru. And there's jungle shamans where the focus is a little bit more on the entheogens, ayahuasca and San Pedro and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. But the mountain shaman, my teachers never even really mentioned ayahuasca or anything like that. So the appeal for that particular form of shamanism was that it was not hierarchical. They gave you and gifted you the rights, the shamanic rights, not after like you having to apprentice for 13, like if you were to go to a Native American medicine person and want to learn, they would most likely, I can't speak for all, would want you to, to be studying for 13 years or, more, and you'd have to go through all these different steps before they felt you deserved the right to learn this. And then when you after a certain point, okay, you deserve the right to, experience this after different trials, etc.
Mm.
But the Peruvian shamanism, they were just open to sharing it. Basically, they were medicine people who, when the conquistadors came to South America, they had prophetic knowledge, so they knew they were coming. So they went and they hid up in the high mountains, up over 16,000-foot mountains and down into 14,000-foot valleys. And
Wow.
and they, lived off potatoes, and I don't know what else they ate, cocoa leaves, who knows. But they, so they lived there, they kind of hid out. And then in the 1950s, they were told that it was time to come to come down and share their knowledge and with the world, to help heal and help during these times, to prepare for these times of the great, what they would call Pachacuti, which is the great reversal and shift of the world.
So are those elders of their tribes that tell them it's time to come down and share? I mean, who would do that? Who?
The elders, the elder medicine
Okay,
people.
that were okay. I just
Yeah.
wanted to, wondering if it was elders or off-world beings, or were they getting downloads, that kind of thing. I didn't know if there were any of the material you studied, whether maybe they were in contact, or because I've never heard of that type of I don't know enough about shamanism. I'm not going to even try to claim, although I've come across many people that claim to be a shaman, and it just seems like it's just such a big scope of
it is
of so
Mhm.
but that's fabulous. I mean, I definitely I tried the breathing technique that you recommended to me a while back, with the holding one side
That's
of
all,
the
just nostril breathing. Yeah.
yeah and I only did it a few times, but I know it's a practice that's helpful, so I will say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, so
So
go
they
ahead.
had, sorry to interrupt, but
No.
I'll try to make it brief. They so they passed on their knowledge to other people who were interested. And whereas initially they would only give the rights of their medicine to training shamans and people who have trained for a while, they eventually just felt it was important to just gift the rights to anybody who was interested, knowing that if that person was not disciplined and really wanting to learn more about it, then those rights would just stay as dormant seeds. But
Right.
if they really cared and wanted to share their heart and their love and their healing, or the wisdom, then they would grow those seeds into, symbolically, great big ears of corn. And then they could either eat that corn to bring their own healing, or they could share, in a sense, symbolically, that corn with others. And so Alberto Villaldo is really who my teachers studied with, as well as shamans in Peru. And Alberto Villaldo has many, many books out there. He has the Four Winds Society. He has, like, Shaman Healer Sage was one of his first books. But he has many, many.
Yeah, I've never heard of him, but I mean, I have so many books I've bought. I go through periods where I read a lot, and then I don't read it all for a while, and so forth. And there's just so much information out there. But that's fabulous. Thank you. I'll have to get that name at the end.
Yeah, I'll
or
give
have
it
you send it to me, because I'd like to check into it. So let's kind of go backwards a little bit. So you had Lyme's disease. So you had this aha moment, and what happened, how you were able to heal yourself from that? Because I know that's, some people walk around and have no idea they have it, or some are severely ill and can't get out of the bed. And it's just a really tough illness, and especially if someone doesn't know that their own emotional state can bring on illness for them. but go ahead if you don't mind sharing
Yeah.
more about that.
Um, so as far as how did I heal with the,
Yes.
so by the Reiki was helpful. So I did Reiki on myself, but also what was, I feel, a little bit more potent and important is the shamanic um, workshops that I was attending. And so in this tradition, and I would say in probably most shamanic traditions, and there are so many different ones throughout the entire world, but the first thing is that you gotta work on yourself first. You have to be willing to look at your shadow. You have to be willing to take responsibility for your actions and to not be a victim. Many people get into victim mentality of, oh, this happened to me, or I'm a victim of this particular, or somebody could have been like, I'm a victim of this Lyme disease, or I'm a victim, you know, of this bioweapon, Lyme disease or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
and I blame the government or blame the whatever, or blame the tick, or the doctors. But instead, with whatever a person has going on, whether it's just emotional things and relationship issues or a health issue, it's important to see how we attracted it. It's not that we consciously want to be sick or want to attract a toxic relationship, but we have a magnetic for it. So I had a magnetic of acquiescing my power, giving my power over to my husband, giving my power over to anything, everything else, and doctors, and leaking my energy away in order to be loved. I would need to please everybody by doing everything. So I was leaking my energy away. So when you think of the Lyme disease is a spirochete. It's like a type of, in a way, like a parasite. It's gonna eat up your stuff, eat up your energy, right? So and use it for itself. So there was the magnetic. It was like, hey, you're giving your energy away, I'll just move on in. And so I did attract it. And then I do believe that it was the shamanism and the Reiki and the transcendental meditation and yogic practices, alternate nostril breathing as well, all of those that help to heal it completely. And certainly my acknowledgement of taking responsibility for how I created a magnetic for it. So we always hear about the law of attraction. We can attract joy, well-being, funds, love, everything like that into our life, but we can also attract illness and despair and misery and sadness or accidents. So so it's becoming aware of where we were at and the original causes. And I'm a Sag Sun, Scorpio rising, Pisces moon. So I love getting in deep, and I love going in there and
Wait, you
trying to
said
find
what's sun? What is your sign? I'm sorry.
I'm a Sagittarius sun sign with a Scorpio rising and a
Okay.
Pisces moon. So
Nice.
yeah. So I really like to dig in deep and to go and do that detective work and to find out where the cause of things are.
Yeah.
So that was first to see how I attracted the disease, the illness. And then the second was, one thing is to also not own that illness. So when I did eventually go to an Ayurvedic doctor, and I go there and I'm like, oh, my Lyme disease is causing this, that, and the other thing. And he's like, wow, you're really owning that Lyme disease by calling it mine. So the body listens to everything we say. And so when we say my Lyme disease or my, whatever, then it says, okay, I'm going to keep it.
Right.
So we
Never
have
thought
to,
of that. I never thought of it that way.
yeah,
Yeah.
it wants
I
to
mean, I
please.
know that way we talk to ourselves definitely has an effect on our reality and our physical well-being or not, definitely, but I never thought about saying mine, that is a form of owning it rather than, yeah.
Yeah,
That, yeah.
so it's
Thank
owning
you.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's owning it and telling your body to keep making it, keep this going on, because I obviously am owning it, so I'm trying to keep it. So the awareness came to me that of the importance of just referring to my body as I'm getting back into balance. So instead of, for example, you'll see people with different ailments and they'll be like, it's this support group and that support group. And what do they say? My blank, whatever illness they were, told they had. And so it's important to remember too, and I tell this to my clients, that a diagnosis is a noun. It doesn't change. So, the verbiage of it. So it's important to break that contract and not contract to a diagnosis. So not contract to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes. I never thought of that.
Yeah. So that's key. So breaking the contract. So for example, in my sessions, I will talk my clients through a contract breaking ceremony to break the whatever belief they have. And this could be a belief that they'll never be loved, or they're not worthy, or they're not enough. Or it could be a belief that they have that they'll always be an alcoholic, or this belief that they'll always have a particular ailment. And so to assist them, or they'll never amount to anything, they've got to break that, all that old, most of it from childhood. And I would say any ailment, physical ailment that somebody has is going to be, the original cause is usually stemming from early childhood, sometimes from past lives. But to me, anything that's happening in the present, even if it was from a past life, it's not like I feel generally with my clients that we have to go back into that past life, because it's obviously carried through into this life. So we can just deal with it here. So it's important to understand that and to break that contracted belief. And then, so transcendental meditation was big. So the shamanism was key in that it helped me to look at the emotional cause and of, a variety of issues, not just that illness, but of how my life was at the time, and how I didn't want to be a Stepford wife anymore, and how do I create this new authentic me. So that was key. But the transcendental meditation and the yoga and the alternate nostril breathing, that I believe helped to put my body into a still point. And in that stillness, that's where we can connect, that's where we're present, and we're not in the past, thinking about the past and all the false, awful traumas or beliefs, and we're not worrying about the future. We're present. And that's where we can connect in with our higher self, or in this particular shamanic tradition, we'd say the homo luminous self, that is beyond any illness or disease. So in the stillness, in that quiet, we connect in with our higher self, our homo luminous self, which we can hope to integrate into us. And it'll remind us that you have a whole pharmaceutical.
What word are you using? Homo what? Say that again.
So in this particular tradition, they would call it the homo luminous self.
Homo luminous. Interesting. Okay.
Which another name would be higher self. So our divine self.
Right.
So our authentic divine blueprint, also you could say. So if we connect in with our authentic divine blueprint, our higher self, that higher self is beyond any illness or disease. It knows exactly what to do to fix anything. So if we can connect into that, we can just the realization alone will help that we are beyond illness or disease. I would have to say that Deepak Chopra's book, which led me to seek Ayurvedic medicine, his book, Perfect Health, it reminds you in there that we make whole new bodies. In every 7 years, we have a whole new body.
Sure.
We're making new cells, old cells slough off, and we make new ones. So we don't have to make the same illness. We don't have to make cells that are ill. We don't have to make, let's say arthritic cells. We can make, healthy cells. We can make, we can make healthy cells. And make it.
Yeah, I've appreciated Deepak Chopra for a very long time. A lot of his, I used to watch his videos and learn about consciousness, and he had one that's called Consciousness with a guy about when they put people. He was a anesthetic doctor, or I don't know what they're called, when they put you under an
Yeah,
anesthesia. Yeah,
anesthesiologist.
and where the consciousness, is it outside of us? Is it inside of us? And they were able to test it. It's a fascinating interview if you ever decide to watch it. I
Oh
highly
yeah.
recommend anybody. Yeah. So yes, that I appreciate everything that you just said, because I think people get sick and especially if they're not aware of other alternative healing techniques and modalities, or whatever you want to call, connecting with their higher self, not claiming illness, so forth, so on. A lot of people aren't aware that they can heal themselves simply by through their thoughts and breathing and so forth. So I think that's fabulous that you just shared what you shared. How okay, so I definitely, at the second hour, we'll talk more about healing techniques. If there's just a few that you would like to share with us, that maybe just some basic ones. Of course, there may be somebody that watched this or watch it when I posted on, uploaded on YouTube, that may reach out to you, you know, for assistance and all of this, because I think that everything starts from our emotional state of being.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. So, and I have my own things that I do, and I definitely feel I've done, I've come a long way. And it's interesting that you were taught, because I don't claim addiction at all.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed, mental illness. I was diagnosed with addiction. I don't claim any of it. My life is completely different, but it's hard, like you said, especially for people that still depend on, and I'm not one of these people that think that, like, if somebody gets in a car accident and they need to go see a doctor or go to the
Right.
hospital.
There are times. I'm not saying
Yeah,
that.
there are definitely times,
Yeah.
but the goal is, especially in this day and age, and with all the plethora of information out there, and we don't talk about certain things on the show. That way there's no issues, but I'm sure a lot of people can get an idea of what I'm referring to. So I don't give medical advice at all, but what I will say is we are living in times where there is enough information out there, and people like yourself that do the great, have great services that assist people and empower people to be able to learn these techniques in order to empower themselves and be, stand up in their own sovereignty and be able to heal themselves, and open up their pathways for new information and consciousness, and more importantly, returning to their heart, right?
Right.
So we
Right.
walk around with all this anger and resentment and victim mentality for years, and then you have an awakening, and now all of a sudden you have to figure out how to, reverse all the layers of, yeah. And that
Right.
takes time. It doesn't happen. Some people, have this aha, and some, it's, I'm a person, or at least from my own experiences, my expansion is coming in waves. My awakening has already taken place. But
Right.
right. So, but anyways, yeah. Well, I've always appreciated you, and I can feel your energy, so I'm very drawn to your warmth and your intelligence, your heart intelligence more than anything.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think, yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. I'm so glad that we were able to finally get this going. But so let's okay, so the shamanism, share a little bit about what it is that you do, because we have just a little bit before we'll take a break, and then we'll open it up in more of a discussion on healing techniques, what you want to share, whatever you're willing to share with the audience to help them, give them a little guidance. Maybe we could talk about some solutions on some of the things that are taking place right now for the collective.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
yeah. Go ahead,
yeah,
share whatever
absolutely.
you feel pulled or you feel is going to be helpful. Sure.
So just one thing in reference to the type of healing work that I do with people is that, so it's holistic in that um, we'll have the conversation where I'm able to help with intuition and also, the gifts that I have, I'm able to lead them to where the original cause was. I clear their energy of any soul fragments, DNA that don't belong to them. I check in for ghosts or entities. That's important to have them cleared if you're going to do a healing for it to last. So you don't have interfering energies. And then we do contract breaking, and then I do the energy work. And that energy work is where they are laying down on the table, and I'm working with their light body. So we have our physical body, and then we have many layers of our light body, our emotional, mental and spiritual, energetic bodies, and our aura. And so every single thing that has happened to us in our life, good and bad and ugly and beautiful and painful and traumatic and wonderful and blissful, is imprinted in our luminous energy field, in our aura. And it functions like the software of a computer wanting to inform the hardware of the body, the DNA. So it is like an architectural blueprint that wants to create something. So when someone has a traumatic experience, and that traumatic experience can be anything from an accident to abuse to just somebody, a teacher embarrassing them, it's still a trauma. And if they did not have the capability to deal with it at the time or to shake it off, and so most children, and most of it stems from early childhood, they didn't have either the safety to speak up for themselves or to say anything or do anything about it, or they just didn't have a clue how to deal with it. So that becomes a blueprint, even if it's just somebody, like, let's say, I don't know if we have time for this little thing, but yeah, I'll go into that after, just in case we have to, get cut off here.
Sure.
But I was going to give an example, but I would just say that, so it's important if somebody wants to heal. Let's say someone has a tumor and the doctor diagnoses it and they go to the hospital and they have a tumor removed. But they had the physical surgery to remove it. They did nothing with the original blueprint. There's a blueprint that wants to remake that illness, that wants to remake that tumor. So in the light body healing, we reach in, I'm assisted in this lineage. I have medicine beings that work with me, and we clear that blueprint. We clear the blueprints that are ready to be released. And usually I'm able to go through many layers of the onion, so to speak, of blueprints, because I spend, quite a bit of time speaking with the client prior to them getting on the table. So I'm stirring the pot of all these things that they're ready to let go of. And, but those blueprints, for that tumor needs to be removed. For example, if somebody had a tumor, if that's not removed, it will usually remake itself somewhere else in the body. And so that's why, or even a behavior, let's say, people are trying to change a behavior, and they're reading the books, the self-help book, and they're reading this one and that one, and they're doing all their positive affirmations, and they're still running into the same sort of issue, emotional issue or relationship issue, and they just can't seem to move past it. It's because the blueprint for the original cause that has attracted that belief system and magnetic is still running. So we have to do a combination of, yes, you do the affirmations, but the energy work or contract breaking is important. The contract breaking will remove a blueprint, but so will the energy work. And so in my sessions, for example, the client is doing some of the work and I'm doing some of the work, you know, with assistance. So they're taking back their power. I'm not rescuing them. It's very important for everybody to take responsibility and to take back their power. I want to empower my clients so that they feel, so that they don't have to come see me.
Yes, very good. Okay, we're gonna stop and take a 5 minute, and
Sure.
then we'll come back in and we'll open it back up and let you continue to elaborate on your services and maybe some techniques for our audience. And yeah, this is fabulous. I'm so happy we're finally doing this.
Yes, me too.
Great.
So thank
I
you.
appreciate you. Okay, we'll take 5.
And you as well. All right, perfect.
Okay, very good.
Wise men say that rushing is violence, and so is your silence when it's rooted in compliance. To stand firm in loving defiance, make Archer alliance, give voice to the fire. Move people to the beat of the wind, gather yourself and begin to dance the song until it ends. We are winners, champions of the light, forming in numbers and might. Keep the truth close in sight. And woman, medicine man, walking with grace. I know your face and I trust your hand. Medicine woman, medicine man, walking with grace. I know your face and I trust your hand. Find your teachers in the voice of the forest. Unplug, you can't ignore this wisdom of the voiceless. Remedies are bountiful and surround us from the garden to the farthest. Prayer made of stardust. Find your healing in the music that calls you, the voice that enthralls you. What do you belong to? Eyes out, there's the setting of the sun. Give thanks to each and every one. The lesson is the medicine woman, medicine man, walking with grace. I know your face and I trust your hands. Medicine woman, medicine man, walking with grace. I know your face and I trust your hands. I believe in bending backward and extending my trap strip back into the messages in action. The art is beating, stop, start the disbelieving, cause the garden holds the shards, the medicine is in the seeds. When we hold tight to our right to protect them, we know our might is tenfold in connection. Our elders hold them bright lights, we protect them. The medicine is evident, the wolf, the hawk, the bear clan. We hold tight to our right to protect them. We know our might is tenfold in connection. Our elders hold them bright lights, we protect them. The medicine is evidence, the wolf, the hawk, the medicine woman, medicine man, walking with grace. I know your face and I trust your hands. Medicine woman, medicine man, walking with grace. I know your face and I trust your hands.
I'm here.
Can't see you yet. Oh, there you are.
There we go. Well, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining Raven Redfeather and I for our discussion tonight and interview. So let's pick up where we left off, where you were talking about the types of service you offer and maybe share some techniques, healing techniques people can do on themselves, or yeah. And then also I'd like to touch on divination, because I know that you are able to read tarot and yeah. So I'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I thought I would share with people is to do a fire ceremony. It's something pretty easy that most people can do. If you can get outside. So for example, I live in an apartment and currently I don't have a wood stove or fireplace or a fire pit. So how would I do a fire ceremony? Well, you could even take you'd have to go out, generally you'd have to go outside, but you could take a pot, like a pasta pot, and you could do it using that you would burn your, what I'll explain in a moment, your live arrow, death arrows in. And you could do it that way. You can use a candle for a fire ceremony. And this will, brings a lot of healing and it helps to manifest. So any flame, fire is the transmuter. It will transmute heavy energies into light. It will also take any prayers, wishes, and concerns up to source for healing in the smoke.
Lovely, lovely,
yeah.
lovely. I'm so happy to hear. Yes.
Yeah. So any candle would be akin to the sun. So any flame, rather, I should say, any flame is akin to sunlight. And it is my belief, it is a belief, but it is my belief that the Great Spirit or the Divine Creator or God speaks through us, sends energy throughout the galaxy, through all the suns, and then comes to us via the sun, and which is one of the many reasons why being out in the sunlight is really important, because there is healing energy, not only the vitamin D3 and those kinds of nutrients that are important to our immune system and our health, but there is also wisdom that comes through the sun, or through a candle. So a fire ceremony, but I'll first discuss like how you could do it with a fire pit or a fireplace or a wood stove.
Okay.
And so what you would do is you would create a sacred space, however you feel open to do that. And if you don't know what a sacred space, when we do a ceremony, any ritual or ceremony, we want to be in a safe container. So we want to intend that it is a safe container and call on, at a minimum, so if you're not somebody that has a particular belief system, you can just call on your mighty I am present, your higher self. If you believe in God, you call on God or Great Spirit. If you have different archangels that you're comfortable with, you would call on them. Or if you have a particular lineage, or like if you might call on the guardians of the South and the West and the North and the East. But at a minimum, you can just call on your mighty I am present, your higher self, to be present and to hold a safe container, your higher guides, to hold a safe container, or your creator God source. And then you would sit down, you could sit down with a piece of some paper. And first you would write out on that paper what you're wanting to let go of or bring healing to. So I'm letting go of fear. And certainly, there's a lot of fear through the ethers here all around the world. So I let go of any fear. I let go of fear of the unknown. I let go because right now we're at a time of what the Quero would call the Pachacuti, which is this great reversal of everything into this. So basically, years ago, I thought it meant the pole shift and great planetary shift in the physical way, where the world was going to literally turn upside down. But really what it is, it's my belief at least, or my awareness, is that it is learning that what we thought we knew is not actually reality. And so to do that, we have to be comfortable with the unknown. But we're not programmed to be comfortable with the unknown. We're programmed to only trust what is familiar. So you might, on your death, this is your death arrow, which means it's something you're going to let go of. You want to die to. You want to, like, I'm letting go of this, so that it's no more. It's the death arrow. So I let go of fear, whatever somebody wants to let go of. I let go, of addictive behavior. I let go of toxic relationships. I let go of, whatever it is. They write that down and then put that aside. And then they would have a piece of paper and write down what they're calling in, what they want to manifest, and writing it in the present tense, like, oh, I'm so happy and grateful now that I have this new job that I love. The people honor and respect me, and I honor and respect them. I attract healthy relationships in my life, and I'm so happy and grateful that all my needs are met, and I'm surrounded by such beauty, and the world is at peace, or whatever. It could be whatever they're wanting to call in.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I just very quickly before, of course, I want you to continue, but I just had a fire ceremony with a group of people. Yeah, it was lovely. And we did that. We actually wrote down only a couple things we wanted to release and several things we wanted to manifest or call into, right? So that it was more of a positive focus and intention. It just seemed to be that's how we did it, because I wasn't the one facilitating it. Somebody else was. So I just went along with it, and it's fine. And I will tell you, since then, some good things are happening for me. Some not just good, fabulous, amazing things.
Yes.
So I'm yes. But part of that too is me releasing and letting go of some things that I held on to. And I'm not all the way there, but I'm definitely but well on my way of focusing and transmuting and moving forward. I do little, in spurts. I seem to break out a little bit more, and feel more, excited for life. I get excited when I wake up. Yeah. Anyways, go ahead. In the mornings, I'm like, yes, another day. What's today
How
gonna
great
bring?
is that?
I'm not super busy right now. I mean, I have a little thing I do to help people detox, and but nothing. Just I feel like the universe has got me just kind of at a standstill, where I have time to focus and further go deeper into my healing process. I've been blessed with the time to do that, and I'm doing my best to, But go ahead. Please elaborate. Go talk.
Sure.
I love listening to you. So, yeah.
So yeah, and everybody is going to be working on their own stuff. It should be a continual thing. If somebody says they've already done all their healing work, then then they're in denial. So anyways, so you have both of these. And so if you're doing it at an outdoor fire or a fireplace or wood stove, you could even have earlier in the day collected a stick. You may have taken, if you wanted to make it elaborate, you could go on what we would call a wandering journey, where you're just allowing yourself to walk out in nature. And I'm going to look for a stick to represent my death. So not a log, but like a kindling stick. That'll represent my death arrow, and one that'll represent my live arrow. And so maybe the death arrow, I'm just going to give an example. Maybe you find a stick and maybe it looks completely bare, like it's vulnerable, naked. And that's what somebody's drawn to. Or maybe somebody else is drawn for their death arrow. And maybe somebody else, like it's just like a bone almost. And maybe somebody else is drawn for their death arrow to a stick that's like the bark is coming off and it's all scraggly and dirty or something, and that's going to do it. And maybe their live arrow, maybe it's has a like two directions or something, or maybe it's or maybe it has white bark and it looks very silver, and so there's no right or wrong, just whatever they're drawn to.
Sure.
If you don't have time to do a wandering journey beforehand, just grab two sticks.
Yeah.
And then you could just sort of loosely wrap your death arrow paper around that one stick. That'll be your death arrow. Just make sure you don't confuse the two. And wrap your kind of like a wrap it around like that.
Sure.
Like a scroll. And you could wrap your live arrow paper around the other stick. And then if you're doing it with a group, you'd all go to the fire. And if you are doing it with a group, then one person would go up to the fire and somebody else would stand behind to kind of like hold space for them. Because when we go to the fire to release something, it's very emotional. We're vulnerable. So it's nice if you have now somebody to hold space. If you don't have anybody and you're doing it by yourself, just intend your guides are back there. They've got you.
Yes.
And then if you feel comfortable, you would, and some people are afraid of fire, so that's fine. They can do it from a distance. But if they're comfortable with the fire, they can come up to the fire and take it into their root chakra in intention. So I'm intending to take the fire with my hands into my solar plexus to feed my self-expression, my core of my being, and then up over me to like sort of bathe me in a cleansing of my aura with this fire, right? And then let's say it's my death arrow. I'd be up at the fire and I would read that. I'd sort of unscroll that death arrow and I would read it. You could read it out loud or to yourself, whichever, depending on how you feel. But I would read each sentence, feeling into it, and then blow that, whatever I'm letting go of, blow that fear, blow the addiction to worry, blow the addiction to low self-esteem, whatever it is, or self-sabotage. I let go of self-sabotage. And you feel into it and you imprint it literally with your breath. That breath, you're getting it out of your system. You're also telling the universe, this is you, it sort of identifies.
Mm-hmm.
Then you could wrap it around that stick and put it in the fire. And then you would watch it burn, and you'd want to watch it burn, because as it's burning and as you're watching it, it will transmute anything that had once contracted to those beliefs. It'll help to transmute that.
That is so fabulous, Raven. That's so, I've done fire ceremonies, but I never heard in detail like this of, really being active and engaging in the ceremany rather than just stand there. And not that doesn't work, but I'm saying
it still works.
But that's fab. I'm definitely gonna use that next time we get together,
great.
or at least suggest it and see how people, whether people resonate with it and if it's something they feel will be helpful and useful. That's fabulous. I appreciate that. Yeah. So
awesome.
then what do you do? The same thing with the live stick?
Yep. So everybody, if you were with a group, everybody would first do their death arrows, because we need to empty the cup before we can invite more in. We have to empty the cup. So everybody would do their death arrows, and then and I forgot to mention, you can also decorate your stick. So if you want your live arrow to have pretty ribbons, marshmallows, chocolate, I would want chocolate, but whatever, you could do that as well. But with your live arrow, again, you could come up to the fire, your root chakra, your middle, and over you. It's also lower world, middle world, upper world, sort of like subconscious, conscious, and super conscious, as well. And then you would have your live arrow and you would read it, feeling it accomplished. feeling, wow, I'm so happy and grateful. I'm so excited about this. And you blow into that again at each thing, imprint it, wrap it up, put it in the fire. You can again take the fire in if you want. And then you would step back. And then in this tradition, there would be, after everybody did their live arrows, there would be one stick, just one stick for the whole group. Or if you were doing it yourself, you would have one separate stick. And that's called the Pachamama stick, or Pachamama.
Pachamama, yes, very nice.
Yeah.
Yes. So
So-
please, yes, go ahead.
So that one, if you're doing it with a group of people, it's nice for someone in that group to decide to make the Pachamama stick. And when I say make it, I mean put some intention in it. So they might find a stick, and then they might embellish it prior to the ceremony, right? So maybe they're walking and they have their Pachamama stick, and they're like, what does, they're just sort of allowing themselves to connect with Pachamama without efforting, but just with their intuition. And so like one time, for example, I grabbed a bunch of grass. I ripped it out of the ground.
I just had to put a note for my Pachamama stick. Sorry.
Oh, yes,
So I
no
didn't
worries.
forget. I'm gonna incorporate that in the next. Go ahead, please.
And then I tied the grass with the dirt to the stick. And then I, maybe I think Mother Earth, Pachamama, loves chocolate. So I included chocolate in there and sweet grass, and and I don't know what else, but that's just an example. If you don't have time to do that, you can just simply have a stick. And then this stick would be passed around to everybody, with the eldest woman being the last person to get it. And the eldest woman traditionally would be the one putting it in to the fire.
Okay.
But meanwhile, or if you're doing it by yourself, you would just hold that stick and you would blow into it your gratitude for Mother Earth, for whatever it is,
I love this. You're just making my heart open.
Oh,
I get choked up. I'm imagining it as you're saying it. I can see. Yes, that's so beautiful, Raven. Please go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm just.
No worries. I love it.
I'm getting a little sensitive, but that's all right.
No, it's perfect. Thank you so much. And yeah, and then you would also blow into it your blessings for Mother Earth, your gratitude and your blessings. And then it would get passed around again to the eldest. And then when it comes back to the eldest woman, she would then put that into the fire. If it's a man doing a ceremony by himself, that's perfectly fine. He would just, put his gratitude and blessings, and then he would put the stick in the fire. But if there's a group, the eldest woman would be the last to put the Pachamama stick in the fire. And then everybody would hold hands at that point. If it's a group, they'd hold hands. No COVID restrictions here. Whoops, I probably wasn't supposed to say that word. Sorry. And they would hold hands and just really focus their loving heart intention on that stick that's then burning in the fire. And then that would be the end of the official fire ceremony. And then I'll wait till you finish that.
I'm sorry. I'm
Oh,
listening.
no worries. I'm not in a rush. I'll grab a sip of water.
I'm just quick, like words and notes. So nope, I'm good. That would, nope. Go ahead, please finish. Yeah. I
So
appreciate
then-
your patience. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No. So then once the Pachamama stick is burned, if it was a group, then the ceremony is complete.
Mhm.
And you could traditionally people might walk around and hug each other, so everybody's hugging each other, and something that's been foreign maybe for a year. But and then you would close sacred space. So a medicine man that I was partners with for a while years ago said to me, finish the experience. And I loved that statement. I wish I had known it when my children were little, because it is a simple statement, but it just makes it so clear. If you open a drawer, you close it. If you open a door, you close it. If you take a tool out, you put it back where it belongs. If you take
Sure.
pan
Yeah.
out, you put it back. So the same thing with sacred space. If we open sacred space, we want to close it. We want to thank the beings that have come there. It's important to close it for several reasons. One, out of respect, to show gratitude, but also because if we don't close sacred space and we continue to do ceremonies all the time, we're going to have like hordes of beings there just hanging out and waiting, and it gets very
Yeah.
dense.
Yeah.
So it's important to release those energies. But yeah, it's a beautiful ceremony. If you don't have a fire pit or feel like you can go outside and do it, you can even take a piece of hair. You just, pull out a piece of hair. It doesn't smell all that great when it burns, but if you were like in your apartment, for example, if somebody just had an apartment, and this could be my death arrow, and then I could blow into it what I'm letting go of, and put it in the fire. And
Wow.
then I pull out one and blow into it what I'm calling in, and put it in the candle flame. And then I could pull out one for
Simple
mother.
way. Yes, that's right. Very good. Well, that's lovely, because not everybody is invited to fire ceremony, and that would be lovely. Of course, anybody that's listening in, or when this is uploaded to YouTube, they will hear this and maybe start having like women's circles, or just circles of love and unity and wholeness, inviting
Yeah,
people into ceremony for the betterment of our own lives and those that we invite in our world. Yeah, because everybody's dreaming up their own dream.
yes,
And
absolutely.
I had actually posted something. Somebody had posted something about, I don't know. It was a post, but I can't remember the exact words. But I did write at the top, create your own heaven and invite others to join you. We can do that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's so important at this time. It's not to stick our head in this, in the sand with all the other anomalies taking place around the world, in our own communities, in our own states, in our own countries. And even if I want to use those words, because I think, that nobody's owns anything, but
Right.
but
Yeah.
you know, so much is happening right now. So much. And I'm excited. Yeah, I still get a little frustrated because, but I'm also I am practicing radical acceptance and complete surrender to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
Every day, I just have to accept that I have family members that really don't get what's going on. I have, neighbors, people that I consider to be, I'm developing uh, more of an association with, friendship. Um, a lot of people are confused about what's going on. And I was asked if I read tarot the other day. People are anxious, and I know some of the cards, but I would never claim myself, I wouldn't offer that service to somebody unless I, you know, felt confident enough to do that, which is something I'm considering. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, I know tarot, and I do know some. I mean, for the most part, I've been, I'm very familiar with it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, do you want to share some of the divination tools that you use for your own practices, or services that you offer to others?
Yeah. So certainly there is tarot reading. So using the tarot cards. Also, so divination tools can be can be done with anything really. I mean, you could even go outside in nature, and well, that's a whole other thing, but I was going to talk about sand painting, can be a way of connecting in and divining what's going on with you, with a person, yourself in a particular situation, either health-wise or emotionally, based on how you put together the sand painting, which isn't in sand necessarily. It could be, in the woods with pine needles and an acorn here and a rock there and a twig there, and you're able
Well,
to.
maybe would love to have you back on as a guest. Maybe we can do a part 2 of, where we can focus more on the divination and different tools, or
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, because
So I guess I don't know what you want to know about.
well,
Do you want to know more
no,
about the
I was
cards,
just thinking like,
or?
yeah, well, I use pendulums and dowsing rods and other things myself, and I'm able to get really, I've got a great connection with my own tools. Of course, I'm somebody that definitely encourages people, if they want to start practicing any type of divination, to really connect with their tools. More importantly, connect with their own heart, make sure that you're coming from a pure place, and
Awesome.
just check
Yeah.
in with yourself a bit before you, yeah, offer.
Yeah, so absolutely, and that's great advice, and it's very important. It's very important to be grounded. I must say I don't recommend that people use Ouija boards for
Oh, no. Yeah, I agree. One,
I just
absolutely.
kind of want to say that.
Yeah.
Um, but using, and basically whenever you do would be my suggestion for people, that if they are doing any divination, that they're connecting in with their higher self,
That's right.
or their God, their creator source. Just go to the source, just go to your higher self, which is divine.
Yes.
We're divine too, but that is highly evolved, and close to the divine. And then and be grounded and just ask for the highest good. I do know that when I choose cards for myself, which I do every day anyways, but a couple things happen. So I have 4 children and a granddaughter, so and family, and so often when I choose my cards, I just say, what's good for me to know for today. Often it won't even be about me, it'll be about one of my children or a relative, or sometimes global things. So but if
Now, how do you know that it's for a child or somebody else and not you? How do you know the message? Because this is, I think, is important, because if people go out here and just buy tarot cards and have no idea what they're, so how would you know that? I'm just curious.
So occasionally I'm not sure. I have an inkling, and then it plays out that day. So there's
okay. Yeah.
and then other times I just know, oh, this is all about so and so. It's just knowing, but you can, and then you can also confirm it by using dowsing rods or using a pendulum to let me see, I can get my pendulum out. My dowsing rods are somewhere over there, but let's see, do I have my pendulum? Yes. I have lots of stones in my
Your
pocket.
blouse is beautiful, Raven.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. Very
too.
nice. Yes.
So yeah, so I use the pendulum to, is this reading referring to so and so? Yes. Okay. Is this, or is it referring to a global situation? You can use that. I usually have a knowing, but if you're not like fully knowing or feeling confident in that, then you can ask your pendulum or your dowsing rods, for confirmation there. Now, if I'm asking specifically about myself and a particular issue, that's tricky. It is hard for most readers to read for themselves. I still do. I still try, but I have to say, it's kind of funny. So years ago, um, I I was I really wanted, a particular relationship, and but I knew it, a beloved relationship, but I knew it, it wasn't really happening. And I would pull my cards, I'd ask, and I would get the hermit card. And I'd be like, no, I'm not taking that one. I put it back in the deck and I keep shuffling, and nope, there's the hermit card again.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah.
So then I had to make friends with a hermit card. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll let go of my attachment. But yeah, so it's sometimes I play games with myself, and I will try to put I don't like that card for myself. Nope, I'm putting it back in. But I know, no, it's important to just look at it and to accept it. And like, as you said, having radical acceptance, we actually, a lot of illness and certainly a lot of fatigue is our resistance to things, whether that's as simple as resistance to doing a chore, or resistance to what's going on in the world, resistance to traffic, resistance to a sound. If we have that resistance, it creates this inner turmoil, which then will totally drain our power. So letting go of resistance, being so one thing, for example, in the Reiki ideals, in Usui Reiki, one of the statements in his the founder's ideals is that I honestly devote myself to my work. And so that one is not necessarily just referring to your career job, or to whatever, or your day-to-day work, but it's could be the dishes. So that you're not there doing the dishes being like, oh, God, why do I always have to do the dishes? Or why doesn't, why aren't the children helping, or the husband or the wife, and why is it always stuck to, that's resistance. Honestly, devote yourself. If you're doing the dishes, enjoy it. It's meditative. You're cleaning, you get to think, you might whistle, you might sing, put on some good music and dance, so find ways that to be present with whatever you're doing, throw out the multitasking and be present. And that way you'll have less resistance and more energy. And I'm speaking to myself here too,
Well, I mean, no, when you just said throw out the multitasking, because I am a multitasker. I can, and of course, I've been diagnosed ADHD, and I don't believe, I am definitely I know myself to be a multidimensional being, and I
Right.
know that I do things and a little odd for some, but it gets done. And I know that my brain is wired differently than, so I've
And that's
accepted,
different.
because I had a resistance to it that made it more difficult for me to accept myself just as I am, because I was told that something's wrong with you, Ida, and you need to get on medication and this and that. And of course, now I know, well, Mary Rodwell interviewed a woman, I don't know if it was CERN, the scientists worked at CERN or DARPA, one of these big, and she shared with Mary that ADHD is considered, people that have been diagnosed ADHD, from their perspective, these scientists, that they're letter people, which is basically a multidimensional being.
Yeah.
So
So that's different. So where you're multitasking, it's sort of like many of the geniuses who, the teacher would be talking and they would be doodling or drawing out pictures or doing something other.
yeah, sure.
And that was the doodling or whatever they were doing otherwise helped them to take in any information they needed. So I think that, that's a different situation where you are able to multitask in a way that it's bringing you comfort and joy. and not whereas other people multitask out of scarcity and lack. I must multitask or I'm not going to get enough done. I must multitask or I'm not going to be seen as good enough. I must multitask or because there's not enough time and I won't get this project, that project. You know what? Do you see the difference? That's out of
Well, I
scarcity
definitely do. Yes.
versus
And
the
I,
way
and I,
you're doing
and
it.
I won't claim that maybe there are times that that may be a, you know, a possibility for me where I'm focused on so many different things. It can be difficult to focus on one thing. And it takes practice. But I'm much better than I used to be, and I don't take any medication. Of course,
That's
that was
awesome.
part of
I think
my,
that's best.
well, I mean, that all ended when I had my awakening and all of that. Like, I
Yeah.
just laid in the bed and said, this is nonsense, and I will not take this. Of course, I was
Good.
abused, you know, anyways, yeah, those days are over. I really enjoy talking with you. I think you are such a beautiful light for this world, Raven. I mean that. Every time I connect with you, I learn something. You know, I just feel your energy is so pleasant and lovely to be, you know, in your energy field. It's beautiful and I appreciate you. And I want you to know that. I really do.
Thank
Yes.
you.
You're welcome. Okay,
Appreciate
so
your work as well.
I'm sorry.
I say I appreciate your work as well.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
what you're
Yeah, I
doing.
would love to have you come back on again. Maybe in a couple months,
Sure.
we can bring you back on and do a set, you know, a part two, or, you know, sometime in the not too far distance, but maybe in a month or two. If you have some free time, I would love to have you come back on and share some more, or whatever arises. We can come up with another topic that, you know, because I think a lot of people, for those that aren't awake and aware, or newly awakened and aware, or those some that have been awakened for some time but really haven't worked out, you know, some of the things that we're talking about. You know, either they get scared, want to go back to sleep. I don't think that ever happens. I think once you awaken,
Right. You're awake. Yeah.
you can prolong and procrastinate, not do the inner work. That's your choice, but it's not going to go away. You know, it doesn't, you know, nobody's exempt from doing their shadow work and their healing and so forth. And now, where at one time it may have been a resistance for me because I didn't really know how to do it, I now look at it as a blessing and a gift, to be able to have a look at my own shadow and to transmute and heal and integrate what needs to be. I don't think, you know, we have this idea that our personality self is something we got to get rid of. No, I really appreciate my personality. People
Yes.
say, oh, we got to get rid of the ego. Okay, well, that's your personality self, and you need that to navigate through this. But you can have a healthy way of engagement with people, right? When we do the inner work and the healing, and we are aware, self-aware, and so forth. So I will ask you to forward me your information, so when I do upload this to YouTube, I can put in the comment section if anybody wants to reach out to
Sure.
yes, to you, Raven, for a consultation, maybe work with you. I highly recommend you. I mean, I've only connected with you a few times, and in those few times that I did, meaning in a personal way, I definitely appreciated what you shared with me and the help that you offered. So I definitely would highly recommend anybody that's looking to, you know, receive help and need some guidance to reach out and see if, you know, there's something that will work for them, where they're able to work with you to get the help they need. If I said that all kind of twisted there, but
No, I got
so
yes.
is there any last, we've got about 5 minutes left, and is there any last thoughts that you might want to share, or also share your contact information here as well, and I'll also put it in a comment. Yep, go
So
ahead.
I'll share that real quick, and then so my website is www.redfeathershamanichealing.com. So Redfeathers one word, Feather, Redfeather, shamanichealing.com. Email is redfeatherhealingarts@gmail.com. And Facebook, I don't do a lot on Facebook. I'm not much of a social media person as such, but Redfeather Shamanic Healing.
So you have a website that people
Yes.
can go to and
Yep.
contact you through your website, set up if they're interested in booking a session with you. All of that can be found through your website, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I just like to reiterate, so it's a new website. I don't have everything that I do on there. So I don't have the entity removal, that type of thing, or ghost, clearings and whatnot, or classes aren't up yet. But do contact me before actual booking and paying for anything online. It's my first time actually having the little payment online type of thing, but once we have a session booked and all that, then you can do that. And I do offer a free 15-minute first time client consultation, so that I can see
That's fabulous. Yes.
you and show you how best I could assist you, and to see if it's a fit. So yeah,
That's
so
fabulous. That's fabulous that you offer the consultation, because some people may not really understand how it works, and when we have one-on-one, we're able to get a little bit more clarity on the services and so forth. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on as my guest. I appreciate
thanks
you.
so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And we will do this again. I'll reach out to you at some point and see your availability, maybe in a month or two, and see if you want to come back on.
Absolutely.
Yep. So we will end this. Again, thank you. Thank you to everybody that may be watching live. Otherwise, we will upload this and get it on YouTube, and I'll send it to you. You can share it on your page if maybe you have some people that would be interested in watching it. Yep.
Sure.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
I wish
very
you
good.
all the best, and I look forward
Yes.
to your next videos, and we'll do another one as well.
Very good. Thank you so much, Raven. Have a
Hello.
wonderful night. All right.
You too.
All
Bye.
right. Bye-bye.